right. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Looks like we are live. I do see our live counter. Welcome. As we get situated and settled in, I know this is a lunch hour for a number of you. I hope you have your cups of coffee, your lunches. Make yourself comfortable. We're going to get started in just a few minutes as we allow everybody to join in. So give us a second, and then we'll probably get started around 12:03, 12:04. In the meantime, we always love it when you guys chat in the chat. So feel free to drop us a note and hello in the chat room. We will see your comments there throughout, so you're more than welcome to take advantage of that opportunity. This session is being recorded, and we are live streaming, if I recall correctly as well. So you will have an opportunity if you do need to drop at any point. You will have an opportunity to check out a replay at some point. Right, let's see. Okay. All right, Sarah, how are you doing? How's your Tuesday coming along?
It's going great, going great. I'm based in Markham, so I think the weather is doing pretty okay. I heard from the Ireland, so I work with the Ireland team. It's very rainy season, but can't complain about the weather. It's just going to get hotter from here, and who doesn't love a good summer in Toronto? How about you,
Yeah.
Aida?
Yeah, what a hot day yesterday. Honestly, that gave me high hopes for a solid spring, and that after this long weekend, we're done with cold weather. So naturally, I'm immediately planning what shoes to wear.
I already have
Priorities.
I
Priorities.
already have the slippers on, so not slippers, but the sandals.
Yes, smart girl, smart girl. Awesome. All right, let me see. Do we have any comments in our chat yet? There we go. Salams from Kareem. Walaikum salam. And again, please do take advantage of the opportunity to post there. Now, for some reason, I can't see on my screen how many folks we have on the call. Aisha is in the house. Assalamu alaikum, Aisha. We do tend to get some reoccurring members, which is fantastic. I love to kind of get to know the names of our audience members and make sure we say salams in our chats. Okay, so why don't we get started? So welcome to this session on presenting with impact. Today's topic is going to be about mastering the art of executive and audience communications. And what to expect, obviously, on this webinar is really all topics centered around that conversation, right? And as with previous webinars, we like to take a lead from what you want to know, where your challenges and so on and so forth. So we'll touch on that as well. So taking a look at a little bit behind the scenes of prepping for any event, dealing and wrestling with your inner critic, which seems to be the nemesis that we all have to deal with as we kind of get prepared for any presentation or any communication that we're gearing up for, and then obviously sharing some of our insights in preparing for executive communications, and specifically in getting buy-in to your ideas, or basically getting support for anything that you're working on. So we have some templates, some tools, some tips and tricks, and some resources that we've kind of collated from different sources, but obviously we're going to be sharing some of our insights as well. So thank you for that. And then Sara is joining us as well. Sara, I actually met through this network. I had the privilege of attending a number of Max events in the past where Sara was the host, and I was just blown away.
You're too kind, Aida.
At how professional, how gathered she is. She's just centered. I'm like, this girl got this covered. So when we were thinking about who to reach out to for this topic, I'm like, Sara. Yeah, so we'll go through a little bit more introduction on Sara, and we'll get to know her a little bit better. But let's move on to the next slide here. And I just want to make sure we cover some of our basics for some of the folks that are new to these webinars and are not necessarily familiar with who Max is and what Max is all about. Um, can we get that page up on screen?
Yes.
Wonderful.
This is the
Excellent.
one?
So, yeah, that's the one. Thank you so much. All right. So, Max, if you don't know, obviously, Max is the organization that is sponsoring today's webinar and bringing to you a broad spectrum of programs and connections for the Muslim professional community. It's really all about inspiring leadership and empowering change in our communities. And there are a number of ways that Max has done that over the years, and you can see just a little bit of the impact here that we're seeing on this slide. And I would say, 2025 is the year for Max in terms of the accomplishments and a number of programs that have been deployed as well. So fantastic things to look out for. On the next slide, you'll get a little bit of an insight into some of those scholarships, some of the professional excellence options that you can participate in. As you can see, quite a few new items that have been deployed, and that is a result of fantastic volunteers. A lot of Muslim professionals that are willing to contribute, want to connect, and do great things for the community, and that is fantastic. And this series is complementary to the Max Mentorship Program that has kicked off, and a number of our mentors, mentees are on this call as well as a broader audience. So this is really to give an opportunity to all mentees and mentors to take advantage of getting access to professionals and experts in different areas, and in addition to the mentorship that they would be getting from their personalized one-on-one experiences. All right, and then if we can move on for a second to the land acknowledgement, and as you guys already know, I do these a little bit differently. So we'll start off with the classics. With the land I'm standing on today is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, always mess that one up, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. I also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 signed by the Mississaugas of the Credit and the Williams Treaties signed with multiple Mississaugas and Chippewa bands. But we take this a little bit further, and as I've mentioned before, it is extremely important that Muslims who live in these lands take a personal interest in both understanding the experience of the Indigenous peoples, as well as understanding how we can contribute to the reconciliation and reparations that are needed within the community. So as per usual, I am sharing a couple of different resources that I think are extremely valuable. This is a new organization that I've come across. They are hosting a webinar. You'll see the strategic foundations using the employer of Choice Diagnostic to build a 3-year Indigenous inclusion roadmap. So in case you do not have a very strong program in your organization, this iWorks is a fantastic organization that actually provides a lot of free webinars where you can continue your educational journey. But I also highly recommend this to bring it into your organizations to help complement the internal programs. So I attended this one just as I joined just as I joined Interac. It was advertised and I thought it was fantastically done. And I saw that they have new ones coming up. So these two I highly recommend for you to take up on your journey and continue obviously to find ways to donate to various charitable institutions that are supporting Indigenous communities. All right, over to introductions. Let's get to know Sara.
Well, to start, as you can see in the office right now, a product manager at IBM focused on, the observability portfolio. And so this is a new structure. Before we had what was called automation. I come from a tech background. So I did software engineering back when I was in college, university, and saw myself pursuing tech, being a girl in STEM or a woman in STEM. Not that often you see that. So ended up pursuing becoming a product manager, IBM, working on software specifically. That's why I mentioned Markham, because I'm based in the Markham Software Lab. And besides work, also part of Max, which is how we met Aida. We met through a bunch of different Max events in the past, including Women in Leadership International Women's Day. So I lead the Women in Leadership program. So connecting together amazing Muslim women, those who are absolutely killing it in their field, bringing them together with early career professionals that are looking to grow. So being able to bridge that kind of gap, create a network, a strong community of Muslims is why Max is here in the first place, and what we're all really trying to do. So I joined Max about 2 years ago in August of 2023, also near the same time where I joined IBM. So I almost IBMer for 2 years, but it's been a great journey so far, and it's great meeting you all, meeting you, Aida. But that's just a little bit about me.
That's awesome. Thank you for that introduction. And again, I'll just do a little bit about me just because I don't do that very often on these calls. It becomes a bit repetitive. So Aida Awan, I'm currently working as a leader IT service management at Interac, and really happy to be one of the volunteers supporting Max Mentorship Program. I'm originally from Bosnia. I came here during the war in Bosnia. My father was in a concentration camp, and we were sponsored as part of the refugee groups coming into various countries. We've been settled here now for over 30 years, learned how to thrive in this environment, which was a journey on its own. And, I'm very keen to help others, expedite their journeys and share everything, any tips and tricks that we possibly can. So that's just a smidge about me. And then the next, before we get into our topic, we always like to get some insight from the audience. So on the next slide, we're going to prompt the question to you guys. What challenges do you face when it comes to public speaking or presentations of sorts? So we'd love for you to use the chat capability today and put in some comments. And I'm going to take a look at and see what's been going on in the comment section. Lots of salams. Walaikum salam, everyone. Really nice to have you here. Fellow woman in tech, welcome, Sophia. Thank you, Sophia, for that comment. Okay, Halil, catering the presentation to the right audience. Okay, yeah, good one. Self-doubt, yes, we will tackle that. Fair. All right, let's see what else. What else comes to mind? Especially executive leadership level. We have you so covered in this presentation. I promise you, you will walk away confident. We will have this figured out.
It's
Anything
like the
else that you
audience can
guys?
read the future. They can read the future here.
I
They know
know.
exactly what's coming.
Being posed a question or challenge, conflicts against presentation, not having answer to it. Yeah, okay, not okay. Managing the conversation, virtual work. Okay, especially in public. Yeah, I see that. Yeah, rambling, keeping audience glued to the end, language barrier, clarity. Okay. Okay, so I think, I mean, I've seen some of the things that you'll be talking about, Sarah. So I think we have this covered, which is going to be great.
This is great.
Yeah. Um, yes, I mean, yeah, excellent points. Okay, all right. Yes, the webinar is being recorded. All right, let's get back into the presentation itself. So, Sarah, I'm gonna, your slides are coming up first, so I'm gonna give you some quiet time, and then you go ahead and take them through some of your thoughts and how you prepare for, presentations, some of the things that you consider as you step in front of variety of audiences that you've had to step in front of.
Yeah, no, I can definitely dive in here. And before diving in, this question, what challenges do you face in public speaking or presentations? And one thing, I've seen some really common answers here, including, self-doubt, and how do you tailor it for the right audience? Confidence. It's things that you hear very often. And I can tell you right now, those things don't fully go away. If you go and talk to someone who has decades and decades of experience, I can tell you they still face the same thing. There are times where you will stutter. There are times when, the words just aren't coming. And I think I saw a comment talking about, if you just keep going and you see the audience isn't engaged, these things will definitely happen. So I can tell you right now, it's really a matter of having that confidence. So I'm going to go into the next slide here, into ways to carry yourself with presence. So I put this book, 92 Ways to Talk to Anyone, and I want to hear from the audience. How many people have read this book in the past, or maybe have heard of this book?
No, first for me.
First for you, Aida?
Yeah.
Okay. So, whoever has, read the book or seen it, or maybe hasn't seen it, I would highly recommend this book, just because, if you're looking to improve your communication skills, or have that presence, or charisma, or even just, have that, what body language do I use? And I spoiled a little bit of what you're going to showcase there, Aida. Body language, tone, everything is very important. And that's what 92 Ways to Talk to Anyone kind of talks about. And it's, you hear things of have, establish confidence, establish this, practice before you go into your presentation, tailor it for the right audience. But it's really a question of, but how do I do that? I hear all these tips, but how do I actually implement it? So what I did after reading the book is put 4 ways that, as long as you have this, you can walk into almost any room. Of course, the 92 ways, have that down pat. That's definitely important. But as long as you have these 4 things, this is a good start to get you to that place. So the first one, they listed it out here. I think the number 1 most important thing actually is the flooding smile. And so think of it like this. I really like the analogy that Lyle here puts into the book if you read it. It's where, when you're looking into a room full of people, you gravitate to the person that's smiling. So it's the same thing when you're going up on stage. There's hundreds of people in a room and hundreds of faces looking directly at you. The first thing that you want to do is, you're going to gravitate towards, is the one who's smiling at you. And this is in general, even if you're having a one-on-one conversation with someone, you're going to look at, how are they smiling? How are they reacting to what's being said? And so that's where, when you're communicating with someone, you're communicating to a room full of people, you're communicating one-on-one with someone, smile. And not just, flashing the immediate smile, but smile slowly. Those really, like, people in general, they react really well, especially when you have a lot of warmth in your face. People can pick that up. One thing that's great about people in general is they're really great at, picking up warmth, picking up genuineness, and all of these things are so important. So smile slowly, and let that calmness come in, and let it flood your face. That's why it's called a flooding smile. So it feels very warm. So it feels like it's like a hug on your face, if that makes sense. Think of it like that. And the next one, sticky eyes. So what this means, sticky eyes, it's a little bit misleading, the name. But what it means is, don't move your eyes away from the person. And again, this depends on a cultural sense. But talking about North America, we're just focused on North America. It's maintaining eye contact. And I know this is very general. Everyone knows, when you're looking at someone, it shows that you're paying attention to them. So it's the same thing. When you're making eye contact with someone directly in a room, whether it's one-on-one or whether it's in a, you're presenting into a group full of people, when you maintain eye contact, it's like you're talking directly to them. When they're talking to you, you're listening directly to them. It's the same thing. You're showing that you're very focused, just focused on them, and they will gravitate towards you, and they will sense that and hear why it works. It builds trust, and it shows interest, and it shows that you're really listening to them. I like this one called Hello Old Friend. So Hello Old Friend, what this talks about is, it doesn't mean, you only have to go to your friends. It means, even if this person's a stranger, you've never met them before. Now, this can work even if, you're in networking space, you have never met this person before. You just walk up to them and just imagine as if you're talking to an old friend. Because same thing, warmth, you're going to hear me say this a lot, warmth, genuineness comes out very, very easily. And it feels, it's a great interaction for both of you. And that's the kind of feeling here that Hello Old Friend is trying to portray. So it's showing familiarity. It's making the person feel warm. You're going up to them, asking them genuine questions, getting to know them. So as an old friend, you're going to want to ask them, how was your day? You're very interested and you want to hear more about them. It's the same thing. Hello, old friend. Next is be a word detective. And so with this one, I don't know if you've noticed, if you're talking to someone who has done something similar to this, you mention a sentence, a few words, and they pick up on those words, and then they repeat the same thing to you as they're responding. So, for example, if I'm talking about how I went hiking the other day to this mountain, and I used some maybe a specific brand, or I use a specific term, they'll reuse that same term or reuse that same brand in their sentence, and it makes you feel that, oh, I'm being heard in this conversation. So this is exactly how you want to have one-on-one conversations. This doesn't really apply if it's a group setting. If you're sitting at the standing in the front of a podium and you're presenting to hundreds of people, but what you're doing here when you're speaking to them one-on-one or in a small group setting is you're showing you're engaged, you're keeping the conversation, the flow going, and it's a really engaging conversation. But that's why I kind of put it last here. I think the first two that are very important is flooding smile and sticky eyes. You'll notice when you're seeing someone on stage, whether it's a comedian, whether it's someone at a tech conference, no matter what, they have that same smile and the same eyes that are making eye contact as if they're talking directly to you. And same with that calmness. It's as if now imagine you're standing presenting to all of your friends. It feels like that. You feel warmth, familiarity when you see someone like that talk on stage. And so that's where I would say 92 ways to talk to anyone. I recommend this book in general, but if you really want to kind of carry yourself with that presence and that warmth, this is where the steps here really come in. But again, highly recommend the book. It talks about the how do you implement, not the this is what you need to do. It's great to know that, but when you're going into the implementation phase, this is where these steps can help you. But again, you'll see a trend where it's about warmth, making them feel engaged. Engagement is important when you're talking to your audience, no matter who it is, whether it's hundreds of people, if you're an MC for an event, whether it's executives that you're talking to because you need to pitch your idea, or whether it's your team because you're trying to talk and discuss the latest strategy that the team needs to implement. No matter what, engagement is so important. And one thing that you see very common is leaders that are trying to, they're enthusiastic, sharing their ideas and sharing that warmth and genuineness with you. Or at least those are some of the good leaders that I've seen so far. I know I went a lot there, Ida, but
No, it's
next
good.
next slide there.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. Thank you. I think you had one more in slightly different view.
Oh yeah, it's the previous slide, just in a prettier format.
Yes, all right, wonderful. I honestly, I think it resonates, and I think we've seen these repeated many times, but I find that sometimes it just doesn't stick in your head. Um, at different times, you'll make a different connection, right? One of the things
Yes.
that jumps out at me is, thinking of your audience as friends, right? Because really, like, we tend to create this image of people in our heads, especially if it's in a boardroom or even in an audience. There's that gives us such intimidation factor, whether it's their titles, whether it's just the audience, or we think that they know everything, and so on and so forth. And it creates this like stressful scenario in our minds that we almost have to be afraid of who we're presenting to. But in the end, it's just human beings, really human beings who more often than not don't know enough about the topic you're presenting on. Some will have opinions, but in the end, it's opinions. It's okay for people to have opinions, and you have to let go of your desire to be liked by every single person in a room and thought of as perfect, right? If you go into it with the mindset of, and literally, we're doing exactly the same thing right now. I'm talking to a group of friends who need help with something. That's why you joined this call. And we may have some insights to share that will be helpful to you. And that's my impetus for being here, to get past the anxiety. So don't think that there's no anxiety. There is, I always have it. It's my present and continuous friend. But you just kind of put it into context that it's more important for me to be here, to be present, to have a conversation with you that would benefit you in the end. Then any of the imaginary scenarios that your mind will continue to play, that you've been trained. Remember, when you were a baby, you didn't think about how anybody looked at you when you were learning how to walk, right? But now you, over the years, you've collected all of these like judgmental aspects of, what society might think of you in different scenarios, that you just carry that baggage with you, right? So let all that go and think about, how do I help the people that are in front of me? What do I have to share that might be helpful to them? If I'm talking to a group of executives, they're facing issues that they need to solve. Is it financial burdens? Is it risk burdens that I could help alleviate? I'm here to present an option solution, something that will help them be successful. Now, all I did is changed the mindset, reframed why I'm there, right? Not I'm here to be judged. No, I'm here to help. I'm here to help pass on something that may be of value to this group. And that's it. We leave, we move on, right? And the imposter, you'll always unfortunately have to deal with it because you're the one that developed it, right? There's a lot of voices that you've heard over the many years, and you'll have to kind of coach it back into the back office that you occasionally check in on, but not necessarily make it a priority to focus your attention against. So I don't believe in the introvert extrovert. I think it's just putting yourself in small opportunities to practice, right? I'm 150% introvert, but most people won't believe it when I say it. But I really am. The reason why I do something is strong enough for me to show up and lead the team, present something, do these webinars. My reason has to be stronger than all of the imaginary fears that might come up, right? So that's kind of my thoughts there. Does that make sense, Sar?
No, that and you worded it really great, Ida. It's very true. There's no such thing as, oh, but I'm introverted. Oh, but this person's more extroverted.
Yeah.
It's a matter of you're there on the stage because you know something that others don't know. And
Mhm.
now you're the most knowledgeable one in that room, and you need to share that with the people in that room.
Yeah.
And let that be kind of a guide of, I'm here for a reason. And to remove that anxiety and imposter syndrome or whichever it may be, and know that you're there to speak for a reason.
Mhm. Yeah, and so again, before we get into the next section, during the presentation, as I've been doing during this call, when you have an opportunity, when somebody else is speaking, I immediately switch to a slow my breath down, slow my heart rate down. I'm generally an excitable person, and even without decaf, I'm wired. Sorry, with decaf, I'm wired. If you add caffeine, it's a bigger problem. But slowing your breath down, slowing your heart rate, slowing the racing thoughts that are in your mind, and then to your point, reconnecting that eye contact and gazing gently, not intently, at a
Yeah,
person
exactly.
down you. Yeah, and it adds to the comfort that they'll have contributing, asking questions, and so on and so forth. So hopefully that helps a little bit more.
And
Okay, so
I and
yeah, go
actually,
ahead.
I do have an example. This
Yes,
is
share.
International Women's Day 2025. So that event. So for those who joined, this was on not March 8th. This was during before Ramadan on February 28th of 2025. But this is where I was speaking on behalf of Max Women in Leadership. And this advice in particular is for those who do get very, very nervous. I do understand there are those who get very, very nervous going on stage, whatever it is you're presenting to someone. So let this advice hopefully help you. So you have your papers, you're ready to go up on stage. And before you do that, I love the example you gave of deep breath because it helps regulate your breathing so that you're more calm going up on stage. But now I want you to also do this. Imagine you're standing up or whatever it is, whether it's on a call, if it's on a call or in person, but as you're getting up, as you're walking, imagine there's a door frame around you. And I don't know, for those who watch Vin Gian, he has another great analogy of this. Imagine an invisible door frame. And as you walk into that door frame, I need you to imagine that you're about to go, you're about to go and speak to all these people, and you are imagine you're the winner of the room. You have just won something amazing, something you've always wanted in life. Just imagine you've won something great. Um, and feel confident in yourself, or remember, so even another example, imagine something that made you feel very accomplished, and I'm 100% certain there's something in the past that you are super proud to have accomplished. That, imagine that, and now you're walking through that door frame. As you walk through, you'll watch your head, your chin get higher, your posture become a lot more firm,
Mhm.
and walk more confidently. So now imagine anytime you're going into the office, anytime you're going anywhere, imagine a invisible door frame.
Mhm.
And as you go in, you'll feel a lot more confident, a more confident, version of you. And now you're ready to go and present. Now imagine that win you had. Now you feel like a winner, and now you're going to go present to everyone in that confident form.
I love that. I feel like I need to have background music. My entrance.
Yes.
Yeah, let's take it to another level. Why not?
A whole orchestra in the back.
Yeah. They don't know what's in my head. That's a good thing.
I love this.
Yeah. Okay. Why don't we get into a little bit around the delivering a pitch? So one of the things that I get asked a lot, and this is why I took actually mentorship with somebody, is I really wanted to understand, how did they present? How did they get buy-in? How did they get this audience to say yes, right, to something that proposal, business case, whatever solution that I'm presenting. And so I've been looking for great resources that kind of help me deliver that pitch in a way that it makes most sense for that audience that I'm presenting to. So we'll talk a little bit about later. There's some fantastic references that I have in terms of understanding who is in your audience, who's sitting around the table. But for now, I just want to kind of focus on delivering a pitch itself. One of the best mentors that I've had is Patty Azzarello. She is an executive in US who eventually turned to actually just teaching people, being a mentor for a living, which was incredible, because most people that are in senior roles, they actually can't teach you how to be an executive. They don't know how to impart that level of knowledge. Patty nails it every single time. So I will share, first of all, Patty Azzarello, you can easily Google her, but subscribe to her. You can get some free webinars. You can subscribe to her newsletter. She sends out, like every week, she sends out an article or something that she puts together, a blog post. And it is the most practical advice that you could actually use in a workplace. This is not theoretical. That's something that you can't use at all. It's so high level that it doesn't make sense. Promise you, you will not waste your time with that. So a lot of the content in the coming slides comes from the training program that Patty put together for us, that I was like, this is it. Like, this doesn't get better than this. Okay, so let's start with the first aspect, right? Number one thing around the understanding your audience, right? When it comes to executive expectations, they are really, when we say they're busy, they don't care, right? But they're just exactly the same human being as you are, with a broader scope of decision making. So they are going to be very busy, overbooked. They might travel a lot. They care only the most important things that they care about, right? There's a lot of people vying for their time, big stresses, so on and so forth. They're not experts in details, right? What they want most, and I'll put a caveat in here, right? Because it's not something that I would resonate with, but majority will want simplicity. They want short meetings. They want context to the things that they care about, right? Whether it's business or whether it is just an issue in the organization that they're trying to resolve. Figuring out their mood, how do they communicate, right? Is there a style of communication that they prefer? They want answers, not questions, solutions, not problems, right? And not so much on the vague things, right? What everybody at that level will look for is, how do you help them take some of the weight away? It's not about, okay, I'm just going to come and complain to you about all of these problems that somebody should figure out how to solve. That's probably the biggest pet peeve that every executive will have. What they want to understand is can you help them solve that problem? So that's like 50% of getting their buy-in, right? Um, so assume that they don't care, but how are you going to get there? How do you get them there? So let's take a look at the next slide here. And uh, okay, so preparing, right? Number one is you need to have that translation to the business priority. So this is just an example of mismatching the priorities, right? So if you're in a technical world, there's a thought process and priorities that the technical folks will care about. But CEO, board, business side have actually different set of priorities. So when you take a look at them, you'll see that the language wise, they don't exactly match up. So your job is to figure out who you're talking to and what do they care about. Is it the business priority? And then making sure that you're correlating whatever it is that you're talking about, correlating it to the appropriate um, outcome that they're looking to drive. So objectives, priorities, organizational priorities that they're trying to get at. So anything to that effect, this is where your number one job is. So you have to make it relevant. It's not their job to do that. You're the one speaking. So you need to take the onus of doing research and saying, well, okay, well, if we have this infrastructure problem that's blah, 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 what does that mean for cybersecurity? Like, who are you talking to? How do you relate it to their world? Okay. The one thing that, same thing with understanding their language, what makes sense. If you're using excessive jargon, whatever your industry is, if you're, excessive jargon as far as even the business process, but you're talking somebody that's on technical side, it's the same thing, right? Speak in their language if possible. If not, simplify it. Don't use the excessively industry specific jargon. Be very clear in the most simplest terms that you can be. Creating the hook and the frame, we're going to take a look at a little bit more on the next slide, but respecting their time. So 7-minute meeting, I promise you, majority of presentations I've had to do actually end up being 10 minutes or less. Usually around the 7-minute mark. It doesn't matter that you ask for half an hour or you think you're going to get an hour of the time. That will never happen. In reality, meetings don't work that way. You're usually given a slot in the meeting. So you always have to be prepared to deliver your entire presentation in 5 minutes. So when you put that much of a restraint on yourself, now you have to think very creatively as to how you're going to do that, right? So let's take a look at that next. Okay, so this is in essence how we organize any presentation. Now you're going to look at some presentations that are done by the Deloittes, the consultants and so on and so forth, and they're very robust word-wise, slide-wise, and so on and so forth. It just doesn't work. There's context where that makes sense, but most of the time when you're coming in, you want to be very clear on what in the first slide, what is the hook? Why is this important to you? So if I'm saying, okay, we have an operational issue where we're losing X amount of money every single month due to da 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 da, you get my attention, right? You'll get their attention, right? So be very clear on why you're there and why is it important. Or we have a a risk issue, an audit issue, whatever it is that's important to them that they care about. That's where you're putting it in. And immediately in those first slides, right, you're now talking about here's how the space that I am focused on links to this problem, ongoing problem. The slide 3 is immediately, what is this for? What's the main point? What are you asking for? Like everything in one slide. So if you showed nothing else except for this one slide, everything needs to be in there. And I don't mean 10 paragraphs of words. You have to get creative in using slides, and there are fantastic resources now that are free out there for free presentations. My favorite is UExec, youexec.com. You can see tons of templates that you can take advantage of, purchase, and do whatever you want with. But you need to be able to organize your information in one. If you didn't get past that slide, what 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 is the main thing that you want to get out of. So here's the problem, here's the evidence, here's what we need to do about it. And then I'm going to go into the supporting. Okay, for those that want a little bit more detail, here's the back end information as to why we've done something, any benchmarking, any proofs, any analysis that would have been done at a high level. That's slides 4 to 7. Always have a recommended plan of action. Don't make them think about what should be done next. Tell them this is what we recommend to be the next steps. Could be, if you assign people from your teams will work on the next level of detail. Whatever that is, outline it so it's very clear and give them choices, right? If there is choice to be made, we can leave things as they are. You can approve this, we can get this done. You can do this, it'll cost you more, but we'll do something faster. Whatever those choices are, list it all out, make sure you're good and you're done, right? And then official ask and close. So backup is for if somebody interrupts you during the call and they say, well, I need to see the data, you can say, okay, we actually have that. It's included in the takeaway. For this audience here, we won't go into that much detail, but I'm more than happy to spend time with you geeking out over the data, right? So you manage the conversation and you bring everybody back to the point because sometimes you do not want to go deep. And this comes from, you understand your audience, which we'll talk about a little bit later. So you do want to make sure you have your data. It just does not necessarily need to be in those first 5 slides. Okay, now we'll pause here for a second. Sarah, Sarah, you're in this world. How does this resonate with you?
This is exactly what we also go through as well at IBM. I can tell you right now. It's the same thing. We had a 30-minute presentation scheduled, and we only had 5 minutes to present our not findings, but what we needed. And so what we did was, this is another story time. We had an executive summary. That was the first slide we had. And then we had all the other content. And we only got through the first slide. A lot of questions come in
Yeah.
as well. We get questions, what does this mean? How did this happen? Etc. And so in the executive summary, we listed out everything. This is the problem. And this is the context. This is the problem. These are the solutions. And these are solutions/outcomes that we need to take action on. And so kind of already listed everything in the executive summary. So it was fine because as long as we hit those points and we had a plan of action, whether it's green light, yes, go ahead and do this, or let's have a follow-up call, whichever it is, that's what ended up being the outcome. So from there, 5 minutes, this is everything step by step, like in honestly 3 steps. Then we got the green light. You only have a few minutes to do it. So being as concise as possible, as you said, Aida, as concise as possible. They only have so much time to dedicate, and get the green light from there.
I go, and the thing is, like, how do you practice, right? Do I wait till the next time I talk to an executive group? No. Every single time you have a meeting with your manager or another leader, go through the same thing. Prep for it as if you were almost presenting, right? Have your outline of things that you want to say, share, and so on and so forth, and say, I just want to run a few things by you, and then practice that conversation. And then you're going to start that even your body will notice that this is now normal. This is BAU. I'm just talking. It becomes it's just another group that I'm talking to, right? It's not anymore. I am preparing for a special presentation. It's when you start to kind of move up in the ranks, you do this so often that you do not have time for 3 months of playing around with your deck. You don't. You have like days, sometimes 24 hours to put a deck together with thoughts. And so you have to get very proficient at it very quickly. So start practicing, even if you're an individual contributor. So what? Like, you can still present, you can still coordinate your, thoughts in your head and figure out, how do I put this on a piece of paper? And then I'm going to put it in front of my leader. I'm practicing. I'm not working just for my current role. I'm working for my next role, right? And I'm looking at what's important there, what makes most sense for that group.
And that's
Okay.
such an important point, Aida, because, and I saw a comment earlier that said, how do I tailor this for the right audience? And
Mhm.
when you're practicing, you said go to your manager, like present to them and show your presentation to them. That's one area. Now you're going to your manager and showing this is what we need to do. And then, have an, I'm sure, you'll present to your team. You have your team, your colleagues,
Mhm.
they are focused, they're interested on a specific aspect of your presentation as individual contributors, let's say, as an example. And so that's a different kind of tailoring versus now you need to update someone from sales or marketing because they need a certain aspect of it for their job. So now you need to tailor it for them. So as you're presenting the same concept before you get to the executive leadership, you're practicing, how do I tailor this to different audiences? And the thing is that you'll get certain questions from them, and these
Mhm.
questions, it'll help you practice. Let's say, for example, sales will say, well, you know my client mentioned something like this.
Yeah.
What is the step by step, what do I need to focus on, like just an example of a question. And these kind of questions, take them back, and these are ways you can improve for the next time when you're having that conversation with sales and
Mhm.
marketing. No matter what question you're getting, what I like to do is keep a record of all of the different roles in an organization. What are the questions they ask, and refer to them just for remembering sake, to know what are the key things they focus on versus the key
Mhm.
things that development team would focus on versus the key things marketing would focus
Yeah.
on. And so it helps you tailor each conversation to them, and you'll just continuously get better over time with that kind of practice.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's take a look at that. Actually, we'll just quickly take a look at the next slide, and then we'll move on. And I do want to do some Q&A. So this is just a bit of a summary on, checklist to deliver the presentation. Nothing really, shocking here. In the end, what we just want to make sure is that there's an ownership to the outcome, right? Nobody wants to feel like, okay, you just came and dumped the problem at the table and you don't know what needs to be done, who needs to do it, or anything like that. Own the outcome. I will take this away and I will follow up with people on your teams for the next step, for vetting the results, for, fine tuning the business case, whatever that may be. Be the person that walks away owning the outcome and following up with everybody else around the table, right? And making sure that there is the next steps are very clear. So there's really nothing here that's too shocking and that we haven't touched on, but that's why I want to actually take a look at in the attachments and the references that we're going to be sharing. Again, I want to give kudos to Max Mentorship, because we have a Max Mentorship executive program as well that I just joined. And we had a presentation by a spokesperson from PwC, and she shared some of her slides and again, communications and so on and so forth. And I love this one slide. If you don't mind just scrolling down a couple of times, and we'll take a look at it. And it talks a little bit about, being politically aware of the audience you're presenting to. I don't think I've ever gone into a room that I did not try to get to know most of the people that are in that room, how they make their decisions, who do they rely on for decision making in their own teams. So if there's a leader that will, again, don't expect them to know everything, but means that they rely on, I can say, oh, I've already spoken to XYZ on your team, and had them vet this just so that we're aligned. So you're covered from that side, right? So it adds credibility to my conversation if I know that they have certain people on their team that they rely on, whose opinion they lean on when they are not the expert in the room, right? So this is kind of interesting aspects of really understanding who are you talking to and making the effort to understand how are decisions made this organization. Even if I present in this room, what will actually happen? What's the normal thing that actually happens offline? Who makes the decisions? And how can things get derailed, right? And how do I prepare for something like that? So if you can figure out what's the norm in your organization, it'll actually make you a lot more successful in presenting and getting the outcomes that you're looking for. Now, there's a whole bunch of other content here that we're not going to go over. It's all of it is fabulous and very easy to read, so I'm not going to touch on it. But it does also reinforce a lot of the things that we just talked about in slightly different perspective. So you will get this deck. You don't need to worry about that. If you've signed up for this session, everybody gets the deck. But do take advantage of taking a look at that. Now, with the time that we have left, I'd love to go to the chat. Was this helpful? Does this resonate? And how can we help answer any questions that maybe we have not touched on yet? So I'm going to switch to comments and see. All right, any questions? Kareem loves the idea of the flooding smile. I agree. It's a great idea. Uzma, I hope we answered your question in terms of balancing slides with the amount of time you have. Thank you, Cheyenne. Yes, we honestly, every single one of these webinars is 100% about being practical in a real life, scenarios where we're working, where the dynamics are different. Sorry, I did want to mention this part when I said about, knowing your audience. I'm a detailed person. I like to understand more about the data. I'd like to get to know why we're making certain decisions. And for me, a person has to come with data, right? But I try to tell people that in advance. I'm not a believer in kind of summaries that I need to make a very important decision on, and I'm given very little information about. That's my approach. I like to have as much information about financial impact, risk impact, resource impact, like anything that I need to be aware of, and I need those details to actually make the call. But again, everybody's preferences are very different. Sometimes I can be very detailed on some things, light on others. It's always best to know the audience, check in with them in advance, check with the people that report to them, ask them, hey, what is your manager like in terms of, presentations, communications, what do they prefer, all of that stuff. Like, you will work there, you have insights, connections, take advantage of them.
Yeah, and to add on to that too, one thing, especially before you're going to the executive to present your idea, is going to those that report up to the executive. So, their reports, those who work closely with the executive, because they also have insights and feedback that can help improve your presentation and, maybe your strategy, your idea, because they have that very close insight with them. And then at the same time, what will happen is word gets around that, oh, you're working on this particular idea. And so by the time you do go present to the executive, they already have an idea because they've heard of it. Oh, I heard of this idea. I have a little bit of context here, and I've heard, some of my reports have been saying they like this idea because XYZ. So this is another way where it also helps you become more comfortable, and you've already exposed this idea.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't, it's hard to do presentations in silo. And feel like, yeah, I've been thorough. I've been mindful of all the perspectives. You probably haven't, right? So that's why talking to other teams, talking to other leaders in other parts of the organization, getting their perspective, and then integrating that into your story, right? But if you don't have an answer, as I can see some of them, right? If you don't have an answer, you can say, "Oh, honestly, you know what? We haven't explored that yet, but I would love to dig into that a little bit deeper. Is there somebody on your team that you could connect me with? And then we can have a sidebar just to shake that out a little bit more, right? Like it's okay not to know. It's totally fine, but commit to closing the gap, whatever the gap may be, commit to it. And then when you're talking about anticipating questions that may be asked, if you're talking to other people, you're going to get all of those questions. They're going to ask you questions, and then immediately you can kind of start to prepare. So don't worry about, do I know answer to every question? I don't expect anybody to do that, but I would expect, let's follow up to do some things offline. Okay. Oftentimes people start shaking during presentation or they have, yes, like me today, right now. What is your advice? Again, honestly, so there's a lot to be said about anxiety, managing anxiety, and a lot to be learned. But I'll tell you that amygdala in your brain will send more often than not wrong signals, and your body's responding. So it's sending adrenaline through your body. That's what the shakes are. Your increased heart rate also a result of adrenaline. It means that your body thinks there's something to fight or flight. What you need to do is 100% control it with your breath. The only way, the fastest way to bring your heart rate down and also stop the insane flow of adrenaline is to slow your breath. And practice this. I promise you it 100% works. Once I learned it years ago, it made my anxiety attacks a lot more manageable, almost non-existent. But definitely stop for a second and then pretend like you're thinking. I have this great thought in my mind, but instead I'm actually just taking a deep breath. Hmm. And take that moment in your presentation to pause, like take advantage of those moments. It's okay to be silent. Like people think it's okay to have those moments of let's ponder about something and then keep moving forward with the topic. So slow down your breath. Even as you're talking, slow down the way you're talking, because you will slow down how you exhale. Again, it is a breath even though you're talking, and it immediately makes an impact on your body and how you're showing up. I hope
It
that
really
helps.
does.
Yes.
It really does. And another thing too, and this only applies if it's the daytime. If the sun's out, if it's nighttime, it might be a little bit difficult, but if it's the daytime, what may help, and this has helped me, this has helped a few other people as well, is if you can leave the building and go for a walk and just look up at the sky. And you'll see blue, you'll see clouds, whatever it is, maybe the sun's rising. Just look up at the sky and then deep breath in, as you mentioned, Aida, breath to control, your breathing and keep yourself calm, and just look at nature
Hmm.
and realize how I like to look at nature a lot. It just, you see how everything is connected, um, and just look up and you'll start to notice how the tension, the stress, it starts to flow out. Somehow it just flows away. So
Hmm.
I would say try that if you can. If you can't, it maybe, you're on the 20th floor or maybe a top floor. Try to go near a large window where the sunlight's coming in and try to look outside there. And take a deep breath in, keep your eyes closed, and then breathe out as much as you need. And, this is kind of like a quick thing right before a presentation to help keep yourself calm.
I love that. I literally was just looking out through the window. It made a
And it
difference.
helps.
Yeah, because I mean, you kind of get your head too much into what you're trying to do, but when you step back and you kind of take a look at it, and you admire Allah's creation for a few minutes, and
Yes.
just put things into perspective. When we do a lot of these presentations, most of them are not life saving, right? Some of us are privileged to work in those industries, but most of the things that we do are really like small problems that in greater scheme of what Allah's plan is, not really a thing, right? So do try to consider that, framing things and simplifying, what you're really there, what are you there to do, and it'll bring you back and center you a little bit more.
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay, do we have any more comments? I'm just trying to scroll through. Is there anything else? Excellent points. I can see the comment, but I love the comment that were there. Will the recording will
Asia,
be
yeah.
available? Yes, yes, it will be available. I believe we've live streamed to YouTube, and it probably will stay there. Okay, great. Well, listen, this was a fantastic call, Sarah. It's been amazing, as I thought it would be, honestly. I did think it, to
Aida,
have
you're
you
too
here.
kind. Thank you.
We made it through with laughs and genuine smiles. So thank you all for joining us. I hope you had a good time. We do have another session coming up on performance reviews, and I promise you, again, practical, good advice. You'll love it. I highly recommend checking that one out, and make sure that you are following Max on LinkedIn or Instagram account, as well, for additional sessions and more information on what's coming up. Thank you all for joining. Appreciate your time.